would like to hear from this panel, because you have expertise in this issue, is, you know, what are the ingredients that are missing? I mean, to the extent you read things in the chapter that were working, and I appreciate that. You said in the environmental justice panel, you saw that was, you said women, grassroots, and being willing to actually stand up to those who are elected officials and say, no, you got it wrong. I mean, so that's helpful, because you continue in illuminating what you saw that was working, and then what was absent, because I think everyone here has an interest in action and has been, you know, anxious to hear what activists, I mean, we have the unique opportunity to have activists to actually tell us, you know, what needs to be, what are the ingredients?
I think what Danny Bakewell said that's important is that, you know, the main thing is to take a leap and do something, you know. As Budgie Carter used to say, if you only spit, you know. So one of the things that I noticed thematically was there was a sort of tension in the chapters that I read between individual success versus what we talk about, the collective. Because some of this animosity that I saw about these young brothers really disturbed me, because, you know, we like to think that, you know, as black people, we love our people, and if you have a problem with them, what are you doing to help them? What are you doing to help these foster children? You don't like their pants down, are you buying them some pants? Otherwise, you know, I know why people don't have certain things, because they don't have it. It's just that simple. These are not little cultural decisions. You know, let's see, I'd rather sell dope. I can't sell in the trap and you wouldn't make any money, but I'd rather, you know, sell in the trap, or I'd rather be a doctor. Gee, what is it, take an idiot to figure out, maybe I'd rather be a doctor, but what, am I on the pipeline for that? No, I'm on the pipeline to San Quentin. That's the pipeline I'm on. So we have to have a sense of the collective and the collective interest, and not just our individual interests. And once we begin to get back to that, I think that Danny Bakewell and I, and we're old enough to remember a time when we did have a collective interest, when it didn't go to just what's happening to me and me. I too can be Oprah. Okay, you can be Oprah. What about the rest of us, okay? Let's talk about what are we going to do for our people, and get back to the concept of our people, and not be so tied to Massa's house that all we want to do is get a job in Massa's house and close the door to the rest of us, you know? And so I think that one of the things we have to do is have an ideological commitment, not ideological, but a commitment of the heart. You know, we used to say that a true revolutionary is guided by great feelings of love. That we have to learn to love our people. And all this hatred about you don't like this little hip-hop boy and all that stuff, that's got to go. That's got to go. You need to love that boy and that girl, and you need to say, what can I do to change the condition so that that isn't the condition that will produce this type of behavior that I have so many problems with. If I could just say one last thing. Here in California, you have the highest incarceration rate. The United States, of course, we know has the highest incarceration rate and the highest number of people in prison in the world. In the world, this country. 50% are black. This came from the Clinton administration that many black people thought was the first black president, making Obama, in fact, the second black president. So Clinton gave us the 3 strikes crime bill, which was initiated here in California. The Pete Wilsons and all of these people, Duke Majors, pushing for this over-incarceration. We have double the population in the prisons right now. And we see these people as what, our enemies? You think some guy who sold a couple of rocks of crack should be in prison for 20 years? We have forgotten our own people. We have forgotten how to love each other, and we have moved on some private, individualistic, capitalistic agenda that really isn't taking us anywhere, because unlike Mr. Bakewell, who happens to own a newspaper, the majority of black people don't own a thing. Almost every single thing. I was laughing with him. I said, look at the back of this, it says Office Max. We even have a sign is from Office Max. So what I'm saying is, when people talk about black capitalism, in one of the chapters there was a discussion about, oh, I don't want to talk about black capitalism. Okay, let's talk about collective ownership. Let's go back and look at Marcus Garvey. Let's go back and look at, you know, all of the other things that we can look at historically, and talk about what are we owning together? What are we controlling? We don't like the images in Hollywood. Where's your film? Where's Denzel Washington? You like Training Day better? You thought that was a great movie because Denzel Washington was playing a police officer? You thought it was better for Halle Berry to win for that? I mean, let's get real. We don't own Hollywood. So every image that's coming out is because we don't have anything to do with it. And if you want that, you want some image changes, get your own film distribution. Organize these Denzel Washingtons and tell them, look, do what Steven Spielberg and them did. Collectivize that money and do your own distribution. You're not making any films that are supporting us. Denzel is not making any better films than Ice Cube. You want to dog out Ice Cube, but you love Denzel? So let's talk about what are we doing among ourselves for ourselves. And I think that whether that activism is in economic, as you're talking about, whether it is in prison work, whether it is in environmental work, and I don't want to say the SULA thing, I don't want to disrespect that, because I want to say that the hard work of unionizing is still hard work, and I don't want to in any way appear to be disrespecting that work. Get people in unions, get more jobs, do some stuff, but just do something, and I think we can do that if we think collectively and not just as our own individual lives, which is what has happened to us and what I'm sensing is happening to us.
And what I'd like to add to that, and that is I'd like to add to that the reality that we have to use all of this education and all of these abilities that we have acquired over these last 30 or 40 years to recognize that when white people ask you or say that black people have made so much progress over the last 40 years, the answer to that is yes. In 40 years, I have come from having no job to owning a newspaper. There are other people, you can find the Denzel Washingtons, you can find the Oprah Winfrey, you can find a lot of individual success. But when you look at the collective movement of black people, you don't find that. The unemployment rate is still as bad, if not worse, than it was 25 years ago, okay? 40 years ago, when the Watts Revolt took place. Police brutality is down in terms of just the ability of them to just malign us at every crossing, but it's still happening. It's still happening to us, but we don't challenge these things. We watch programs on TV that are demeaning to us and demeaning to our women, setting bad images for our children, and we do nothing about it. We don't even pick up the phone and call. How many of you have a subscription to the Los Angeles Sentinel? How many of you have a subscription to Ebony? How many of you have a subscription to Jet? I know some of you do, but what I'm saying is, how many of you are buying a subscription for the young people who are graduating as a present? How many of us, not you, how many of us are making sure that we are talking to our children about making sure that they go to and they go to a black dentist, that they hire a black lawyer, that they make sure that they are on track? Or are we perpetuating this notion of, well, you know, we live in a society where that's race neutral? You know, we're the only people in the world talking about race neutral. Everybody else love themselves except us. Dogs love dogs, cats love cats, black people love dogs, black people love cats. But we are always escaping the love for each other. And really, I mean, these are simple things, but they're very, very real. You talk about the unions. I was involved in that movement. What you don't know about that movement, and what is not written in the book, was that we had a meeting with the guy who runs that union and said, we will not help you unless you make a commitment to hire a black person to head that union. Because every person that's heading a union in Los Angeles is Latino. I don't have anything against Latino. I just love black people. And we are absent from the equation. We will not make any progress if we are not part of the progress. It shouldn't make us any less. It shouldn't we shouldn't be afraid to make those statements. It's like images. The sister talked about images. You know, I don't have a problem with the images. The problem is we need more. We need a balance. You can look at a sitcom that's not the best portrayal of black people. You just need to have some that are good portrayals of black people. Because we all don't have saggy pants. There are a lot of executives, there are a lot of people who just have good, hardworking people. We're going to do an article in the Sentinel this week about a woman and her husband who grew up in Compton, and then she raised 3 sons in Compton. One is the city attorney in Compton, one is a doctor, and one is a financial analyst. It's not just about the space that you occupy. It's about the responsibility that we take to do something for ourselves and to do something for our children. Why should we be sitting around asking other people to do for us what we're capable of doing for ourselves? That's what empowerment is. Yeah.
Well, so I what I'm hearing, and I think it's loud and clear, and then I want to take some questions. And when I'm asking okay, I'll get this out, and then you can reflect on this as well. Which is, I'm hearing, as far as if I'm asking the ingredients are collective interests, and you didn't say it again, but I'm going to say this, that I hear a message of there needs to be some ideological component to whatever action is. And as I was reading these chapters, and I think about, I mean, and it's actually reflecting, because we haven't talked a lot about it, but the message of incarceration rates, the impact that has on the Black Los Angeles is, writ large, that's Black America, and it's a different piece, and I'm now an academic. I used to be a civil rights lawyer, so I have to say there's a role I think academics play, and this is not for me, but
what is it?
Let me tell you. So this is a really dedicated brother who is a law professor who's also started a charter school. He's a great guy, but he just presented a paper where he was looking into incarceration rates and actually talking about some of these complicated things about blackness. But one of the things that his piece reflected, so what I'm saying, the role that academics play in, like the role that lawyers play in movement, I mean, we all have a part, right, in changing things, which is, I'm saying, something that he illuminated for me that I never would have thought about, but he was pointing to the role that the prison guard unions play in the industrial prison complex. And the racial demographics of the prison guard union in California, this was not like, we're all just going to sing Kumbaya. I mean, he forced me to think, because I was reading and I was like, oh no, he's not, when I hear union, I think white, But he goes on to say, no, this is a union that's a predominantly Black, predominantly female, I think, even union. And what this connects to is your point about collective interest. Because if you are looking at an individual level, your point about, what are my wages, am I successful? But what you're saying is absent if we talk about moving forward. If you're thinking as a collective, and if you're thinking that we have an ideology that we all should share, we're not all trying to be in it just for ourselves, I think maybe that's how you know what I need to do for my family. But if you don't have this collective view of a group, and you don't have an ideology, that this ideology of love, this ideology of we help my fellow man, you don't have anything to dictate your actions. So I guess I'm just saying that's what I'm trying to apply what you're saying to a very hard issue, because what I see in Black Los Angeles is a lot of problems. I mean, just an inordinate number of problems, and people don't know where to start, where to act. And this is a really important major theme. You're saying act in a different way than the American way, which is act as an individual. You're saying act and think as a collective, and that's very, frankly, radical. I mean, that's just not, it's not very much what we
There is no progress that we have ever made as a people that we have made individually. I mean, it's not that complicated. I mean, you just have to look at the reality. I mean, one of the reasons, they had a lot of Black people walking around with Tammys on in the 20s and the 30s. But when Huey and Sister and when they came together as a collective, as a body, and stood in unison, that was a demonstration that these folk are here to be reckoned with. And that was different. And that is what moved people to have to deal with their own behavior, because they knew we were going to deal with them. And if you don't, it's just not that complicated.
Yeah. First of all, I still don't get the thing about baggy pants. I mean, Bill Cosby wants me to believe I didn't see Uptown Saturday Night. Right? Look at you walking around like a fool in that movie. Exactly. So, but another point is, I think, one of the things working from the Tea Party movement to Black folks, which seems like a sort of strange connection, right? So 100 reactionary white folks talking nonsense, right? On Social Security and Medicare, decrying socialism. They don't want government health care. Show up to protest. And they have a 24-hour network that is promoting this very small fringe movement, talking nonsense, conspiracy theory stuff, right? And it all of a sudden moves from, fringe ridiculousness to the mainstream. And everybody's, the Tea Party, I call them the tea baggers, so they get upset when I'm on Fox News. Like, oh, the tea baggers. These tea baggers. So the thing is that whether it's new media, whether it's a series of things, we have to get better. I mean, and I think that was one of the things that was amazing about